Breathe deep, right? Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Madison. My name is Paul Huffman and I'm the club president. It's so good to see everybody here today. Thank you for coming out. We got a great program today. The meeting today is sponsored by past club president Jason Barron in honor of Madison College Foundation led by Rotarians Tammy Thayer and Maggie Porter-Kratz. And our thanks for Jason for his support of today's luncheon. Thank you guys. All right, we'll open up our meeting like we do with our four-way test of what we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Great, thank you. And please remain standing for our opening patriotic song. Bob Dindorf will lead us in singing America the Beautiful with Elaine Mishler on the keyboard. And following the patriotic song, we have two guest musicians who will perform the song We Shall Overcome. Our guests are from the WISO Music Makers program, which was founded on the principle that all children should have the opportunity to create and study music. Many students who begin in this program go on to participate in the WISO orchestras, including the student you are about to hear, Alan Hernandez, who is a freshman at West High School. And joining Alan is WISO Music Makers director, Rhea Hodgson. Once they have played two verses, so they'll play the first two verses, and then Bob Dindorf will then bring in the rest of us to sing the final two verses. And following music, our guests will be introduced by past President Andrea Kaminsky. But Bob?
Thank you, President Paul. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
They can stay standing up.
They'll get up later.
Yeah, that's fine.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall walk in hand, we'll walk hand in hand, we'll walk.
That one looks like it is. This one is on.
It's my pleasure to introduce the guests at our meeting today, and I'll ask that the guests stand as I read your name and remain standing until we've introduced all so that we can recognize you and welcome you to our club, to our meeting. So we have Ben Graupner, who is a guest of Susan Schmitz, Allie Bonher, who is a guest of Jen Savino. Susan Gardell's a guest of Bridget Fraser. Boy, I'm unable to speak. Dan Bromley, guest of Joyce Bromley. John Romiak, a guest of Lynn Sexton. Matt Friedel, a guest of the program committee today. And then there are 4 guests of the Senior Service Committee, and they are Sarah Lee Hinckley, Jan Loisel, Ken Nordland, and Sarah Rose, and last but not least is a visiting Rotarian today, John Bonset-Veal from the Oregon Club. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrea. And thanks to the musicians. We appreciated them coming out today to help give us the fantastic music for today. And Bridget, so good to see you too. Thanks for helping to get this organized too. Appreciate that very much. All right, so my number for today is 43. And this is the number that represents the total number of members who have been a part of sponsoring a club meeting so far this year. The funds total $600 each week, are paying for the hotel rental costs, and it's really helped our budget as we continue to work on recovering from COVID. So a sincere appreciation to each and every sponsor, and let's give them a round of applause to say thank you. And we've got openings in the schedule, so if you'd like to be a sponsor for an upcoming meeting, please contact Melanie Ramey, or she might be contacting you, or the Rotary office. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you. All right, we've got a new member to introduce today. Will Connor Moran and his sponsor, Jenny Jeffress, please stand? And Linda O'Hearn is also Connor's sponsor. Connor has been loaned the classification of foundations and is executive director of the Madison Public Library Foundation. He is originally from Oconomowoc and now lives on Ohio Avenue in Madison with his wife Molly and their daughter Pippa. Great name, by the way. Love that. Connor holds a BA degree from the University of Iowa and a JD degree cum laude from UW-Madison. He is a founder of the National Association of Book Festival Directors and currently serves on the Atwood Barrymore Corporation's Board of Directors. Connor enjoys reading, playing soccer, and hiking with his family. We'd be shocked if it wasn't reading was one of his likes, right? So please join me in welcoming Connor to our Rotary Club. Welcome, Connor. Thank you. And thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Linda, for sponsoring Connor. I appreciate that. And Joyce Bromley serves on our Senior Service Subcommittee, and she's going to come up and introduce this month's Senior Service guest. Joyce?
Thank you, President Paul. Our club recognizes volunteers who have significantly contributed to the betterment of our community. It's an honor to present our club's Senior Service Award to Jean Nordland for her contributions to the Lusher Community Education Center. Through Jean's service at Lusher, an organization whose community is primarily low-income families, the center has enjoyed what she's established through partnerships with other organizations. These include a library, a free tax advisory service, and 10 different play areas. The sharing library allows families to develop their own libraries or to return the books to the center for others to share. From her book solicitation campaign, the Lusher Center initially acquired 500 to 700 books. That program has expanded to allow 700 to 2,000 new books to be distributed each Christmas to families affiliated with the Lusher Center. For 10 years, she staffed the free tax advisory service with accountants and accounting students in an office at the Center for Lusher Families. Finally, 10 play areas. The mind-boggling feat was the Build a Playground in a Day committee she chaired. This was accomplished with two primary partners, the Kazoom Play Center and the American Family Insurance. Working together in one day with 200 volunteers, 10 different play areas were assembled and are still enjoyed today. Fundraising activities in which she was involved supported and continue to support programming through partnerships with American Family Insurance and CUNA. One of these programs is the Jean Buffett Scholarship that recognizes 2 high school students who receive mentoring to help them succeed in school and in life. Jean, please stand. The Senior Service Award provides our club with the unique opportunity to convey our appreciation to you for the contributions you have made to the Lusher Community Education Center and to our community. On behalf of the Rotary Club, we sincerely thank you. Your insight is showing us by example how needs of our wider community can be addressed. Oh, okay.
All right. And then Mary Donahue, she chairs our fund drive. And so, Mary, could you come up for an announcement today? Hi, Mary. Yeah, I looked over there. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, President Paul. Can we put up the slide of where we are? So this is actually my last time at the podium. Yeah, no, wait, maybe. Because here's the deal. We haven't hit the goal. I'm not thrilled to be saying that. We don't actually give up on the campaign. It does sort of wander on through the rest of this year's fiscal year. But I won't be up at this podium again unless and until we meet that goal, and then the costume will blow your mind. But before I go, I do have a couple of things that I really want to say. And I hope you'll open your hearts and listen. I really want to start by addressing the people who may not yet have made a gift, especially if this is your first annual campaign, if you are a new member. Because it may not have had time yet to really sink in for you what value you take away from being a Rotarian, and specifically a Rotarian who belongs to this particular club in this particular room. I look around this room and I see so much value. I see the people that have given me professional advice, sometimes even good professional advice, that have helped me reach a contact, to make a connection, to further something of my own personal agenda. I see people that I've become friends with, that I've shared dinners and cocktails maybe a few times, and become a part of my whole life. And this is what Rotary has given to me. And in return, Rotary has asked me to be a part of supporting how we articulate the things that matter to us as a club in our own community and around the world. And this is what you're being invited to do. This is what you're being asked to do. This is part of how we express who we are as Rotarians and as members of this downtown Madison club. So I ask you, especially if you're a new member, especially if this is your first annual campaign, to make a gift of any size. We usually say something that's personally significant, and that means something different to all of us. Which brings me to asking all of you who have already made a gift to consider whether you can make a small additional gift this year, because it may not look like it when we look around the room, but not everyone is okay. I've had conversations with many people who have expressed things that are going on in their own personal lives. All of us have a story. Some years it's not always a good one. And so if you can dig a little deeper and you can help make a gift on behalf of a Rotarian that is not able to participate this year, I'd ask you to. And personally, I'm just so bummed out we haven't hit goal. I hope that you will consider this, that you'll dig deep, that you'll help bridge this gap. And like I said, when we meet goal, the costume will blow your mind.
Thank you, Mary, for your leadership, and I appreciate all you've done for the campaign so far. We do incredible work in the community, and the funds help us to do that work. So thank you for that, and I humbly ask you guys to consider what she's asking for so we can continue on with our strong history of being able to meet the goal. So thank you for that. And for birthdays, we've got some birthdays to celebrate with a bit of humor or wisdom to complement Rotary's mission. We also encourage members to make a gift to the Madison Rotary Foundation that represents their age, rounded up to 100 for our Synergy Scholarship Fund. On January 15th, past President Larry Smith. January 16th, Alex Vitani, who shares, "I'm sincerely grateful for all the Rotarians that make our club and our community such great places. Thank you, Rotarians." And January 18th, Matt Boatwright Simon. So thanks to all of our celebrants for their contributions to the Madison Rotary Foundation, and please join me in wishing them a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Rotarians, happy birthday to you. Wow. Happy birthday, and thanks, Elaine. All right, a quick announcement. Incoming Rotary District Governor Michelle McGrath invites members of our club to participate in this Saturday's Rotary District Vibrant Workshop. You can attend virtually from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., or you can attend in person in La Crosse from 1 to 3:30 p.m. Please contact the Rotary office for more details and a link to register. Paul Reinemann's mother, Joanne Reinemann, passed away this January 11th in Chester, Vermont. We extend our condolences to Paul and to his family. And this week's members of the news are Kaleem Khair, Ellen Carlson, L.J. Charleston, Carlton Jenkins, Carmen Polko, Aurelie Estrada, Michelle McGrath, Cheryl Cato, and Oscar Morales. And you can read all about them in our upcoming newsletter this Friday. And today's speaker, we've got Spencer Smith. After starting his career at IBM during the Y2K days, boy, that seems, wow. Anyway, Spencer has always been an early adopter of new technologies, so he can better teach others what he's learned. He's given over 300 in-person speeches, and he's been the winner of 7 consecutive In Business Magazine Executive Choice Awards. Spencer is a graduate of the Economics of Blockchain and Digital Assets program at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business, and he founded Madison-based Amplify Digital in 2015. He also teaches digital asset forensics for the U.S. Department of Justice. We look forward to your presentation, Spencer, and we've made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way of saying thanks for speaking with us today. I also want to mention that we've got Q&A with our speaker at the end as time allows, but please wait for the microphone if you have a question. So let's welcome Spencer Smith to our podium. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, good afternoon. You ever go to one of those conferences out of town that take place over multiple days? Yeah? You get there and it's pretty exciting. You probably stay out too late the night before, right? And then stay out late subsequently. So you get down to the last day of the conference. April 5th of last year, I was doing a conference in Tampa. And this is the nation's largest 401k conference. So all the people who advise on 401ks come to this thing. And we were in a massive bull run in cryptocurrency at the time and the stock market as a whole. And I had the coveted last day slot at 8 a.m. to speak. They put me in a nice small room. And the night before, there was a rock concert that had just ended at about 1 a.m. So I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to show up to this thing. But I kid you not, it was wall-to-wall, standing room only people, 200 people in this room. You contrast that to where we are now, that same organization that I just mentioned, yesterday had a press release that said 401k participants rank crypto dead last out of every investment they want in their 401ks, which I think is great, because now that we're through all of the hype, we can actually get down to the demonstrable education that I think will help all of us here today. So that's the obligatory picture of me, and then if I were, I don't know, speaking in third person, I would probably talk about that a little bit. Okay, so if we wanted to understand blockchain, we really need to understand what the components of the internet are. So cryptocurrency sits on top of blockchain technology. Now, if you recall very early on, like Paul had said, back in the Y2K days, we really didn't have the internet per se. We maybe put the America Online disk that you probably had 400 of at home through that in your computer, and then we'd go online, right? And then we go offline. But no longer do we go online anymore. And in fact, if you want to go offline, you need to take out your phone and put it in airplane mode, right? So you deliberately go offline. Think about the things that we did very early on with the early internet and what it is that we transacted. The first things that we did was we collected information. So it was basically a digital newspaper, right? So instead of waiting for the news the next day to show up in person on my doorstep, I could go out and get sports scores or news or the weather or whatever it might be. And then this other thing came along. We go, well, this is kind of cool. I can send a message anywhere in the world for free instantly. And that's where the internet started to have some degree of utility to a lot of us. We go, oh, I can send this email and it's going to go all the way across the world to somebody else's mailbox, and I can communicate with them back and forth. And that was fine. And then, as Paul had mentioned before, Y2K started to happen, and we figured out all this computer stuff. And that coincided with something called the dot-com bubble. You guys remember this? Okay. So you may or may not have uttered at one moment in your life, I'm never going to put my credit card into a website. Why would I ever do that, right? And now you can't book a flight or book a hotel room without putting your credit card into a website. In fact, it's probably tied to your phone. We don't even think about it anymore. But anytime you introduce money into some kind of theory or some kind of practice that we have as a technology, that's where things start getting really interesting. That's where people start to form opinions, and they have rightful opinions because a lot of stuff changes when you start to introduce money into something. Now, I've never bet on sports, but I've been around a lot of people who have bet on sports, and they're wildly more interested in random games than I am because there's a monetary component to it. And that's where we start to have feelings about these things, right? Like, what is this thing and how should I represent what it means to me? So let's go through a quick example. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, we talk a lot about tokens, okay? And tokens are maybe a misnomer because they're really just digital things. They're not physical things like the thing I'm going to share with you in just a second. But these cryptocurrency tokens sit atop a blockchain. So what is a blockchain? Well, because now we have these internet computers that are all connected all the time, we can start to send transactions around the world and have every single one of these computers that are connected to the internet keep a centralized ledger of all this stuff that happened. So, as an example, if I were to say, all right, everybody get out a pen and paper and write down 3.14 on a pad of paper, we could all talk about that and go, did he say that? Did he actually say that? Let's write this down. That would be us achieving consensus. And that's really what blockchain does on an electronic scale. What happened? How do we record it? And then we move forward, meaning we can never go back. These blockchains are considered immutable. We can never go back and change any of these things. So this has been around about 15 years or so. We haven't had any issues with people actually going back and recording new transactions on top of other transactions. That's really the power of blockchain. Before we had the internet and the ubiquity of it, we didn't have the opportunity to have something like this where we could have a one version of the truth, so to speak. And that's where this electronic stuff is so prolific now. So if we go to the batting cage example, as I mentioned, there's not a lot of tokens physical out there anymore. So you used to have subway tokens in New York, right? You go to an arcade, you use tokens. These are tokens from Vitens. So in Whitney Way in the Beltline, right? If you want to use the batting cage, you use these tokens. Now, specifically on them, they say no cash value, which makes sense, right? But what are they worth? What is a token worth? Well, you go to the batting cage and you can use the batting cage, right? And these are considered what's called a fungible item, meaning we can take any one of these tokens and exchange them for any other token, and it really doesn't matter which one you have. So when we talk about cryptocurrency tokens, you've heard this language used with Bitcoin and other ones like that, the token is just a representation of your right to do something. So with cryptocurrency, it's a layer, it's a monetary layer that sits on top of a blockchain, this ledger that I talked about, and if you want to use this ledger, you use the cryptocurrency. That's what you pay to access the blockchain. And that's it. So let's go a step further though. Let's say I want to advance the batting cage. Let's say I want to make it more personal to people. As opposed to me just putting in a random token, I can put in another token in advance of using one of these. And that will uniquely identify me. So every time I go to the batting cage, I want to swing the bat, see how I did, I can put in this other token first, then I can use the tokens that I have. And that personalized token is called a non-fungible token, meaning it's unique. There's one-of-a-kind digital asset. Now you may scratch your head and go, well, what does that mean to anybody? Why does that really matter? Well, think about any kind of membership organization like Rotary to which you belong right now. If you have a digital token that gives you access to something, that's where we can gate the right to do something. So let's say I go to a website. Do you have the token? You can access the website. You can get behind the paywall of the website. It's going to be a way to frictionlessly allow us permissioned access to things that we wouldn't have otherwise. So those are the two concepts within cryptocurrency. We have fungible tokens, meaning anything's replaceable, and then we have non-fungible tokens, meaning those are unique. Now the latter is probably where we're going to start to get more and more of this stuff to start to pop up, and these are often now called digital collectibles. So they'll take the place of membership cards or anything like that that you might have that would be representative of your right or your loyalty to do something within a given community. Any questions about this part so far? Please, please, before I get into this, please, let me know. What do you have so far? What questions do you have? Thanks. Thanks. Janet, do you have one? Do you have one, Janet? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, what questions do you have so far? More information, please. Joyce, about what specifically? Where do we go next? That's my last part. That's this slide right here. What do you consider doing next? Yes, sir. Yeah.
If blockchain is a record of transactions, is that all it is? What is the information that comprises a blockchain? What is it? All information? Is it transactional information? Is it my data? What is that information that the blockchain
Oh, that's
holds?
an awesome question. So oftentimes we'll talk about something like the blockchain. There's not a the blockchain. There are multiple blockchains. So an example that we really don't pay attention to because there's not a monetary component is Walmart's been running a supply chain through a blockchain for a really long time. But none of us care. Walmart cares. They care about where stuff comes from and where it goes. So let's say they're getting a bunch of stuff that they're importing. Is this actually what it purports to be? You know, forgeries, frauds, they're all over the place, right? If I attach a token to this thing, add it to the blockchain, I know that it's actually what it purports to be when it shows up in our warehouse. That's where supply chain start to make sense when it comes to things like that, but that's, again, doesn't have a cryptocurrency component, so that's where we really don't pay attention to it. It is, though, any blockchain is a moment in time, a transaction of something. So this asset, this good moved from here to here. How do we know that it's true? It's because we attached it to this database that can never be altered. It can never go back and change it. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. What other questions do you have? Yes, please.
Why is blockchain and cryptocurrency and this mining thing so energy and data intensive?
Yeah, that's an awesome question too. So the Bitcoin network, it's a whole bunch of really powerful computers. It's by far the most powerful computer system in the entire world. The purpose of that is just to secure the information. So if you want to write information to this blockchain, to this database, the Bitcoin database, you need to run a miner. You need to run one of these really highly energy intensive devices. Now in Wisconsin, it's pretty interesting. We've had two things happen recently. One yesterday, there's a dam that is now being repurposed to do Bitcoin mining through completely green energy. And there's another one out in Fall River where they took an old factory and started to use that to mine Bitcoin as well. And it's just a way to secure the network because without those computers running all that information through their computers, they wouldn't have the ability to secure the network. Now we can contrast that though, because that's obviously not green by any stretch of the imagination. It takes a lot of energy. There are many blockchains that don't use that technology at all. They use almost zero energy, and that's called a proof of stake blockchain. So in other words, if I own an asset, I can pledge this asset and say, I promise to tell the truth. So when all of us write down 3.14, if somebody writes down, no, he said 3.15, we're going to take part of your crypto that you had staked to tell the truth and say you didn't tell the truth. So that's the way that those networks are secured. Yes, please.
So you say it's secure. Is anything really secure?
Is what? Sorry.
You were talking about how the transactions are secure. It cannot be changed.
Yeah.
How do you know they can't be changed?
So far, 15 years of history, it can't be changed. If there's things like nanocomputing that might fundamentally change how computers work in general, that could certainly play a factor here. An old adage in cryptocurrency across the board, just like early stage investing or anything that's really, really risky, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. And I think that's still the case very much with all these cryptocurrency investments as well. It's highly speculative. Other thoughts or questions? Yes, please.
I've heard that if you have, my understanding is that if you have some form of cryptocurrency, that and you lose a password or you don't have that password, you can't recover it and that asset is lost.
Yes.
So why is something so technical and smart so dumb?
Good question. That's a great question. This is really about self-sovereignty, so it's a double-edged sword, right? So in the case that anything gets recorded to a blockchain, it's never truly lost. It's do you still have access to it? So if you lose your secret phrase or your passkey, you could definitely have that happen. Now to contrast this, where it might make some sense, is you recall when we had in Afghanistan just fairly recently a Taliban takeover of the country again, people were trying to escape the country. They couldn't go to an ATM or the banks because the banks were closed. The ATMs were closed and get their currency out. If they actually had custodial assets, like stuff that they owned, in a digital form, they could take those things with them. So it does go both ways, right? So it can't be sanctioned, it can't be taken away from you, but at the same time, you just still need to protect your secret phrase. It's like going to the bank and getting a bag of cash and going, sure hope I don't lose this. It's very much like that, very much like that.
And actually, I have a quick question right here, over here,
Yes.
Janet.
Oh,
Hi. Because there's no, I mean, one of the advantages of crypto is that there is no sovereign oversight in terms of the government or corporations or committees. But what stops somebody from just mining a whole bunch of crypto and there's no value behind it? I understand there's really no value necessarily behind the dollar either, but there is an entity to make those decisions on how much to put in circulation. So what is it that dampens down unlimited circulation for crypto?
Yeah, so much like I said that there's not the blockchain, there's no the crypto either. There's thousands, most are going to zero, but there are thousands of these options. Probably the most prominent one that everybody's heard of is Bitcoin, and the way that the Bitcoin thesis was, the white paper that dictates how all these computers talk to each other, there will be a maximum of 21 million Bitcoin ever. So that's where people can't mine an unlimited amount of those. So that's at least specific to Bitcoin. Now, the other ones are very, very different as far as their use cases and how they get mined or how they get created, but that's specific to Bitcoin. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Recently in the news, there was this fellow who got sent back to the federal authorities, and he invested the crypto into hedge funds. So how does the hedge funds work with the crypto? It seems like some type of scheme to have the pyramid of the money. How does that work anyway?
Okay, so fella took money and invested in a hedge fund? Oh, the SBF. Yeah, that was just a fraud. It just happens to be a crypto fraud. So.
He was entrusted money that then he used for other.
Yeah. So that's Madoff. It's it's stuff that's happened over history many times where people are hucksters, right? They steal money.
We have a question over here.
That's really what happened. Yeah, please, sir.
What exactly does your company do here in Madison, and do you do it with fiat currency or crypto?
Yeah, both. So just to give you an example, one of them that I can talk about publicly, and maybe this is a use case that could make sense. So we've been working with Summerfest for quite a while now, having them roll out their first project of this kind. So think about if you go to Summerfest and you buy a ticket, even if it's on an app, right? You have an electronic app, you scan it when you go in, but they really don't know what you do after that. And it would behoove both Summerfest as well as the attendee to have a better relationship with what artists are coming in the future. Who can I anticipate coming? How can I have a meet and greet with this person? So what we're doing with blockchain is we're rolling out a specific loyalty program to say, if you show up at this, you now get backstage passes. If you show up at this, you now get this. So it's a way to reward loyalty over time. So to be specific, it really depends on the use case. A lot of it, frankly, is just by negation. Right? Like, what are we not going to do? And does this make any sense for our business at all? And oftentimes the answer is no. But I can tell you in the nonprofit space, many crypto people were feeling really rich in 2021, and they want to get those gains off of their books. So how many nonprofits did I talk to that said, hey, how do we take this whole Bitcoin thing? I can help you with that. So that's where it might play out for nonprofits or other companies as well. Yes, sir.
So with crypto, if you're investing in it, what are you buying? What's the value there in terms of what you're getting?
Yeah, great question. So it's a lot like these tokens, right? So there's no value until there's utility to those things. So with some of these blockchains that we've mentioned specifically, if you'd like to access this blockchain, if you'd like to add something to the record there, that's where you use the cryptocurrency to transact. That's what the cost is. So in that case, that's specifically what that is. Varying cryptos have different utilities as well. So some you can redeem for some other things, some you might redeem for some service. It's really all over the place. It depends on what the use case is for it. Yeah, Kaleem, please.
Want to stand up, Kaleem?
Thank you. Will we ever get our money back from FTX?
I don't know.
No.
I'm not sure.
Not any.
I'm not sure.
All right, I'll stop open.
I can tell you. So Paul had mentioned I did a training for the DOJ, the federal DOJ, actually here in town. They have what's called their U.S. trustees. There's only 1,000 of the U.S. trustees throughout the entire country. They do all the bankruptcy cases. So where are these assets, et cetera? People are endeavoring to find these assets. And oftentimes, crypto is talked about being, well, this is a money laundering mechanism. This is a way to commit fraud. That would be the last thing I would use if I was committing fraud, because everything on a blockchain is completely auditable by anyone. So it's really, really easy to find these things. Now, in the case of FTX, which is just flat out fraud, I don't know. Please.
Sorry. Oh, it's okay. So do you think that the Shiba Inu and the Dogecoin will ever get like any kind of value? Because I've invested a lot in that, but I don't know if it's ever going to be worth a lot, right?
Yeah,
I think I have $26 and it stayed like that for the past 3 years.
So this is a really specific question, and this is obviously, I know you're kind of saying that in jest, right? So there's two coins, Dogecoin, which is a doggy coin, and then Shiba Inu, which is another dog coin. And Shiba Inu is actually trying to build out a utility for their case right now. So that might be something that could be worth considering long term. Again, it's basically the batting cage token. It's throwing up a batting cage going, hey, you want some tokens of this thing? You want to use it? That's really where we are in these stages right now. Just to give you a quick analogy, in 1995, the average American sent 0.4 text messages per month. In 2000, that was 35 text messages per month. Now, I would say, compared to crypto, we're probably in like the 1997, 1998 stage, so it's a super nascent, very, very niche thing, but it will be prolific and probably be invisible to many of us. So if I ask you to go to your browser and type in rotarymadison.org, we really don't know how that works. I mean, I can tell you it's a DNS server that talks to TCP/IP and allows these devices to talk to each other, but you don't care, right? So all this blockchain stuff, this is going to be under the level of what we're normally used to transacting, and it's just going to be invisible to a lot of us.
We have a question over here.
Yes.
So
Hey.
how does or can cryptocurrency increase in value?
It is truly a supply and demand metric. So if I want more access to allow myself to use this blockchain, then I'll put a premium on that thing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That was my question.
Yeah, retrospectively, if we look at what happened with 2022, a lot of cryptos went in the toilet. Most tech stocks had seen their biggest drop that they'd ever seen in their history. And that's really where I think that this is more of like a risk-on play for a lot of people. Like, this is a highly speculative play where I'm just going to invest and hope for the best, while the utilities still starts to get built.
I have a follow-up to this
Please,
gentleman's question. He knows a lot about diamonds. So how would you compare diamonds to the tokens that you have?
I think pretty similarly in a digital sense versus a physical sense. What are these things worth? Could I actually use them to do something? Which certainly in diamonds the case is yes, but many of those effects on diamond prices are speculation as well, right? So I think it would go both ways.
How do you convert cryptocurrency into actual money and vice versa, and how do you use it practically in a financial transaction?
Yeah, wow, that's an awesome question. So the back before the collapse, you couldn't watch sports without seeing one of these exchanges advertised, FTX being certainly one of them. Coinbase, Kraken, et cetera, that's where you on-ramp. So that's where you use your fiat currency and you buy crypto. And in the same way that you on-ramp, you off-ramp. So you can say, I want my fiat currency out. From a transactional standpoint, maybe the best example I can give you, there's this thing, this is a big conversation, but I'll make it really small. It's a thing called stablecoins, and it's tied to a US dollar. And anybody anywhere can use those. So let's say you're doing business overseas and you don't want currency risk, you can transact in this US dollar coin and have that currency risk hedged or eliminated completely. Please, yeah. Yeah.
My first question, as you can tell. Let's assume that cryptocurrency does become ubiquitous like you suggest. How do you anticipate cryptocurrency and digital fiat currency will coexist?
Yeah, so this was back in fall at the Wharton class, we were talking a lot about this, and that's called a central bank digital currency, right? So it's issued by a government. The Chinese really like that a lot because they would like to control how people spend their money, and that's why they push the Bitcoin miners out. The US to this point has not entertained something like this. We still have a lot of back and forth with those that are in charge of that because it would allow remittances to be much quicker and probably eliminate a lot of the fraud that happens right now on a government subsidy level. But that said, as far as those coexisting, it's still yet to be determined. It's hard to say if a country like the U.S. will actually launch a digital currency.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
back to your Summerfest example. You're getting into a blockchain to get the data from Summerfest. So do you use crypto to like buy in someone's blockchain, or how do you find that blockchain? Like, 'cause I know they're like all over, but like, how does that actually work?
It really depends on the cost as well as the utility that we are seeking. So if we're seeking a high transaction throughput, we're going to use a different blockchain versus something that would be a really low transaction throughput. Good question. So all blockchains are all over the world. So you, Haley, or anybody else could run your own node of any blockchain that you want, and you would have a copy of the entire history of the blockchain.
And it's like give you a report of all the attendees, or you use your access code, right, to get the information.
Or actually, anybody could audit it anywhere. So anybody could publicly take a look at the history of what happened. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Ready to wrap up? Okay. All right. So thank you. Those are awesome questions. I know we could go on for many, many, many hours talking about this stuff. So what do you do next? What could you consider? I think there are probably 3 options. A, you ignore this, and that's completely fine. That's completely fine. I know there's this thing called fishing, another thing called golfing. I don't choose to do those. I'm at least aware of them, and I know other people like them. That's totally fine. The second thing, you could take maybe a cursory overview into this and realize that the technology is going this direction, and maybe try to get a little bit more acclimated to it. The third is embrace it and say, what could this do for our business, for our nonprofit, for our NGO? How could this actually affect what it is that we're doing? Would this empower us to maybe have more loyalty programs that work better, or allow people to donate to our organization when they're feeling very wealthy and they want to get it off their books, so to speak? That's where I would ask you to consider doing those things. So if you want to get a hold of me at all, please, any questions, super passionate about this topic, truly from the technical standpoint, because I think it's wonderful innovation that we're all experiencing right now. So thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate it. All right, thank you, Spencer. It's a very complex topic that I think it's really awesome that you took your time to do it. I'll give you an example, at least in my world, in the banking world, where if you look at what the blockchain technology could be, let's take like the title of your home that you would have. That could be moved to the blockchain, for example, because all that's doing is showing that, hey, I've got this title for this piece of property, and tell the whole world that this home is mine. Well, if it gets moved to the blockchain, it's essentially doing the same thing. It's saying, this home is mine, and no one else can claim it because it's only one part of the blockchain that cannot be destroyed or eliminated or something. So it's going to be some of these things that we're going to see applications for it in many ways that people don't even realize that's there. You know, they hear all the news of the FTXs fading away and stuff like that because of fraud. Fraud happens all the different ways, but that was just pure, that was somebody just completely taking advantage of what that was. But there's a lot to blockchain and what the crypto eventually will be. I believe, Spencer, that you're right. Eventually, it'll go a lot deeper through our whole universe, actually, of what we do for our transactions, things like that. So tough to kind of put down to it, but I really thank you for that, Spencer, and thanks for your leadership in this area. I appreciate that. And I also want to encourage you to join us next week when we're going to have 2 speakers, Ji Tao and Jeff Lee, who are going to provide us with a history of the Hmong community in Dane County. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming out today.